I want you to understand, if you're a new listener, everything you're hearing here, everything is on the record admitted.
We don't make any of this stuff up.
All I'm doing is reporting the truth.
And they're announcing that they're going to go ahead and start killing old people. Covered in Newsweek, the case for killing Granny.
And you heard me right when I said use the light bulbs to spy on you. I read the SPP, North American Union documents, how they're going to use racial division to bring in the world government. It's where the government can then turn off your thermostat or decide what temp your house can be. Cass Sunstein, the White House regulation czar, who first announced WikiLeaks 3 years ago. Well, they go after George Soros' right-hand man publicly funding WikiLeaks. Then they go on to admit they want 387,000 troops deployed in every U.S. city. The CIA now admits they created fake bin Laden videos. The G20 admits, headed up by Geithner, that they want a concerted global currency devaluation. But if you go back to the Trilateral Commission, they said, we will interconnect the world, we'll get everybody in debt, then we'll implode the world economy and announce the new one world government. Because they admit with Project Bluebeam that what if aliens invaded? We would then unify. Now the Pentagon puts out reports saying, oh my gosh, we could have a total collapse of society, only martial law will save us. Head of Mumbai attack was U.S. government agent. And the IMF and World Bank say they want a world government to set global taxes at over 80% like France. Oh, absolutely. They're trying to pass laws where you can't even can tomatoes. And the majority of Fox News is not owned by Rupert Murdoch. It is owned by Saudi Arabians. Well, the Saudi Arabians own most of our media. That they have quotas for blonde-haired, blue-eyed children and other children that are in high demand. Google is the NSA, and they now admit they're listening to your microphone and your computer, your video camera. They can also record your voice when you're on the phone and then create a code key copy. And they had this 15 years ago. In seconds, type up what they want you to say and then have you say it perfectly. It's all NSA run. They got microphones on the street corners listening to you. And if you've read the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 30 says that you have none of the previous rights they mentioned. Churchill, in fact, put it up on screen. Now they've released all these memos where he was saying society will collapse, the aliens are real. Well, the plan of San Diego is a plan to kill all white people. And it'll be a tax on alternative media to be paid to the mainstream media. Bayer Pharmaceutical was caught in court 5 years ago knowingly putting the HIV in the Factor 8. That was a congressional study in 1981, and Ronald Reagan quoted it in office saying not 1 red cent of the income tax money goes to run the country. Doom, the video game, was developed over 15 years ago by the Pentagon. They're now going to add pain sensors to the games, pain when they get hit. This, again, it's all pre-programming. British Ministry of Defense program. Yep. They talk about using nuclear weapons or the neutron bombs. Yep. If the people were to ever try to take back London, television all going now to 3D, which they admit is total mind control, makes you mentally ill. And we know that the biggest industry now in this nation is prisons. Now the government admits we're going to run your refrigerator, your power, your air conditioner. Kind of like they knew Kennedy was going to die, and they produced videos for all the TV stations 6 months before with his brain tumor. We've got a guest joining us from England, where if you have a learning disability, a mild one, and try to have children, no questions asked, your children are taken by the state. I watched George Soros bragging last night. I almost cried how he's destroyed us. They've already got blimps at 100,000 feet over every major city, on record, Homeland Security, with your heat resonance off your body. Now on the airplanes, you can't talk the last hour. In the year 2000 to 2002 alone, the United Nations was caught trafficking over 1 million women and children. You could actually support 10, 20, 30 billion. And all the top scientists agree on this. All the major pizza places run your background when you get a pizza. Almost all movies and TV shows are completely written by the government. In England, they're saying you got to have a license to even talk to kids. The government plan worldwide is to create a prison grid. We're going to be prodded like animals. If you don't just spank your kids, they're going to take them. If you yell at them, they're going to take them. But they can't have the government openly running things. So they set up IBM as a front, Microsoft as a front, and then that's actually part of the corporate records if you go research it.
I mean, there are globalists that are making $18 billion a day, folks.
I mean, the majority of new scholarships are for Homeland Security related. Pentagon admits they work for foreign offshore banks, and their job in psych warfare is to make sure the troops don't wake up. Well, the RAND Corporation says they want to start World War III with Russia and China. The airlift of evil, how the U.S. government flew 6,000 Taliban and al-Qaeda out to safety. The whole Afghan war was staged. And then a few months ago, NBC was sitting there yelling at the Pakistani president saying, "Why do you support al-Qaeda?" And the guy laughed and said, "You run al-Qaeda." And WorldNet Daily is a very credible source. And we've noticed that when we go to whitehouse.gov to get documents or photos or executive orders, that the computer slows down. They take over your computers. They have the NSA jump in and start downloading everything, basically. So there is no doubt they have incredible life extension technologies already, and the elites say themselves that if they can just extend them another 10, 20, 30 years, are going to be able to live forever. And the New Freedom Initiative says all kids will be drugged, and all kids will basically be taken. And the issue is you don't have to believe in God if you don't want to. The issue is they come after you and arrest you if you do. The CIA is recruiting your local bankers to spy on you. And then it came out in mainstream news, Washington Post, but they said it was good that the Army runs CNN. Of course they do. They literally go out, find an excuse, find a bruise on a first grade blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl's leg because some rich family in Connecticut wants them. And in a couple of weeks, she's there. Mommy and Daddy don't get her. Not how the British government's official policy is to forcibly reduce their population in the next 20 years by half. Brzezinski brags about funding Pol Pot. Common Purpose going on in England, which is a shadow government that effectively runs the UK. The House passed a national draft 4 days ago. DARPA is testing towers, but they said just to calm the public during emergencies, they've got frequencies. And, I mean, that sounds like freedom, having mind control towers. You know where they got the idea for the Matrix? They got that from Pentagon plans. And that for our safety, there'll be no more murder or crime. We will live in tanks. The elite believe in a world Christ who's going to kill the majority of those that won't take a, quote, Luciferian initiation. And this is what the Pentagon at the higher levels teaches. And writing for the CIA's favorite newspaper, they admittedly run it, the Washington Post. Fidel Castro was a CIA operative. And so over 60%, it's over 65%, you can pull up the latest number, do not pay income tax. Don't believe me, just Google Congress not paying income tax. I know that there's an advanced technological civilization under the shadow government. Does your husband know there's a built-in microphone in all those scientific Atlantic boxes? But they've proven the sixth sense. They've proven you write your check to the private Federal Reserve. Government engineered the Depression with the private Federal Reserve to consolidate wealth. It's been expanded. We're now part of the European Union. The fact that the elites are all leaving the United States. Now we have the lowest test scores, not just of the industrialized world, but we are, last time I checked, number 40-something. It's always changing and getting worse each year. They're killing the good CIA people, or they're demonizing them or setting them up, and then they're just hiring the felons and the criminals and the murderers and just grabbing the gang members. $4+ trillion missing from the Pentagon, completely stolen. They will not discuss it. Anybody that talks about it gets murdered or kicked out of Congress. It's these bankers and these families and these people with hyper 200 IQs. They literally do. And and all the ancient texts and what the elites believe, and I know they believe it. I don't know if it's real. I know they believe they're in contact with what you call, they call spirits, or you'd call extraterrestrials. Mid-level sergeant gets about $100,000, a colonel close to $1 million or more, brigadier generals, it's hundreds of millions. And it's just, and again, that's to bring them into black ops. We're the terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. There's no real Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda terrorist.
So they have the giant underground labyrinths that they admit they have.
See, under national security, hundreds of underground bases, hundreds of underground railways, that's declassified. In public labs, they're doing things that their own equations say have a good chance of blowing the whole solar system. Most Americans can't even find the U.S. on a map in major studies. They are now going to devalue the dollar down to almost zero. If you're late to class one time in Austin, they put you on juvenile detention, your life's over, okay? Have you seen how half the billboards are now government stuff? Don't be fat, don't drink, don't, tattle on your neighbor, guns are evil. The official Pentagon plan is to exterminate Iraqis and carry out genocide. Statistically, by the way, it's more dangerous to be in a hospital than on the highway. And then he wouldn't take a breathalyzer, so we pepper sprayed him to make him comply. See, that's torture. The stuff that goes on in Abu Ghraib just goes on everywhere. Bovine growth hormone in there. That's the reason your 5-year-old girls are going into puberty and your boys are 8 feet tall.
Kind of like they don't want you knowing about how you can give your baby up for adoption instead of abort it, because they want to make sure the level of adopted kids stays down so they can kidnap them and get more money.
100 years from now, it's a conspiracy theory that women ever had babies vaginally.
In England, they're banning, saying it's a black day, it's a dark day, everything's racism.
Yes, there are now discussions in Europe about it's wrong to have Darth Vader being black. It means it's racist.
When you look at these troops, and they just hate me so much. They hate America. They hate everything good. They're such scum.
I basically ran for the entire hour this morning. Lost 2 pounds when I got on the scale.
You actually try to help people with a real charity, they will shut you down in 10 seconds. But you steal every single dime of it and give political contributions, they'll show up at your door and say, we want to work with you robbing people. Most of the movies that are out now that are action-adventure, the government releases a bioweapon.
There's 6,500,000,000 people outside the United States, and they all want to come here. You're here to supply blood to the government. If you're a real rapist or a real criminal, you're going to be left alone. But if you're a patriot, the system is going to lie about you. The globalists stage him in the morning to take advantage of the news cycle.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You tell them, oh, you're HIV positive, then you give them a drug that kills them. Kind of the liberals the last 20 years in the U.S. and England said, go ahead and kill whites. And I see the numbers on children getting cancer up several thousand percentage points. World Health Organization, where they admit they're releasing viruses to mimic the one that's now out for the vaccine that was patented in 2007 and 2008 by different companies, the exact same genetic code. And they said, the head of the CFR, while writing for the Club of Rome in 1992, Richard N. Haas, said it's a double pincer. Stage terror will be used for the police state to build it, but that police state's really to carry out the forced sterilization. Dick Cheney in a policy report saying we need to deploy race-specific bioweapons to kill certain races. All the major wealthy people of the world are allowed to put their money into tax-free foundations, but only if the profits go for eugenics. And then I got him saying David Rockefeller's like Superman saving the black children when the guy openly, his whole foundation's about murdering blacks. Piece of trash, Bill Maher. He's another eugenicist. He's another elitist piece of trash.
The Human Genome Project is a race-specific bioweapon program.
It says we got to poison them when they're young so they never fully develop, and they're literally like biological androids.
I know you won't believe me, but after they kill you and your family, you might.
Yeah, the new thing in America is, you go to a public school of a couple hundred kids and there's 20 of them dying of cancer.
Drink out of plasticware, wonder why you look like a woman. And, when you're 40 years old. So this is really a test to see if they can screw everybody up, kill a bunch of people, hurt a bunch of people, and then nobody gets in trouble, and the media just soft soaps it and whitewashes it and makes excuses. This is all a big beta test to see what they can get away with. But what really's been hitting me the last few days is what a coward and what a pathetic blob I am, and how conditioned I am, and how stupid I am.